because I thought we needed it. May God bless all of us, no matter where we are in this world of ours, whether it be over in Europe, the Middle East, that's getting the bombs dropped all over them, injuring and killing people, maiming people. Anywhere in Europe and Scandinavia where we have listeners and viewers, I want to honor them as well. Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Romania, Croatia, Turkey, Italy, and I know there are countries where you guys are watching and listening to this program that I may not be naming, but believe you, we're thinking of you as well, including those people in the South Pacific, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, down in the Western Pacific, in Indonesia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. To all of you, we give our utmost respect and honor and wish you all the best. We talk a lot about loyalty. We talk a lot about honoring people and helping people. We talk a lot about disasters and emergencies from all over the world. Whether it be just an earthquake, and I'm not trying to lowball earthquakes or hurricanes or deadly viruses that are spreading like wildfire in a pandemic around the world. I don't care where you are in this great world of ours, we're a family. And as a family, we're going to work together for the greater good. Whether it's in South America, Central America, Larry, thank you for being with us. Those wonderful people over in Mexico, I take my hat off and salute you as well. God said that this country that we live in, the United States of America, where I live, will be great only as long as we don't forget the Lord God who created it. And as long as we obey the commandments, it will remain a great nation. I hope and pray this day that that's true, that we can reclaim our country and retain the freedoms to worship as we may and not be taken down by governments or principalities that want to destroy everything we have worked hard for. So may God bless us all. Folks, let's talk about earthquakes first. Then I want to talk about the coronavirus. And then I want to talk about emergency preparedness. Because quite honestly, that's why we're here. That's one of the biggest reasons we are here. I told all of you 11 months ago that was our goal. is to try to bring emergency preparedness messages to us here in this country of ours and around the world. And I stand by that. We want to save as many people as we possibly can. We want to save lives. And indeed, I am told that we're saving lives every day. And I pray to God that that's true. That's our only that's our only goal here, is to save lives. Let's talk about the large earthquakes that we have been seeing. For those of you that have not been with us and who are new, we tend to use the USGS map and the EMSC map. The EMSC, the European Seismological Agency. Why? Because unfortunately the USGS does not show us all of the earthquakes that are hitting us or have hit us. As you can see on this map, we're seeing 45 earthquakes. There are nearly 200 earthquakes that have struck this planet of ours today. And because of that, that's why we use other agencies to help us locate earthquakes that affect us. Now I'm going to just talk about the large earthquakes. And like I said, then we're going to talk about the coronavirus. And then we're going to talk about preparedness. At 5:59 p.m., just a short time ago, and actually it wasn't even that, it was about 33 minutes ago, a large, very large 5.7 magnitude earthquake hit out in the center of the Aleutian Island chain, Amitinak Island, Alaska, 54 kilometers west southwest of Amitinak Island, Alaska. There is a volcano out here, folks. There's a volcano out here. We have seen large earthquakes hitting all over the Ring of Fire and elsewhere around the world in the past few days. This earthquake is just one of many that have hit. It's just one of many that have hit. Now, that is why that it hit here in the Aleutian Islands. The large earthquakes come from down here in the South Pacific, and they migrate west, they migrate east, they migrate south down here into New Zealand. See this island, these two islands here that make up New Zealand? The American agency doesn't show any earthquakes. There's about 12 earthquakes that struck here in New Zealand, and not one of them is on this map. But these earthquakes, these large earthquakes, and moderate earthquakes that are deep, strike down here in the South Pacific. And the deep earthquakes precipitate larger, shallower earthquakes. And like I said, they go west, they go east, they go south, and eventually they make their way north as well. In this case, that's exactly what this earthquake has done. 5.7 magnitude earthquake hit at 5:31 p.m. today, Mountain Standard Time, 54 kilometers, approximately 28, maybe 31 miles west southwest of Amitinak Island in Alaska. That's not the only earthquake, but this may and could cause damage on Amatanak Island. Now, I think it may be sparsely populated. It was a very large 5.7. As I have stated before in previous broadcasts, since this hit out to sea, the Pacific Ocean waters up there tend to dampen the actual seismic energy before it hits land. But in this case, this was close to land, about 30, 32 miles from land. So if there's anybody on Amatanak Island, we won't know, at least until this broadcast is over, maybe longer. Lately, when large earthquakes like this strike, whether it be in the islands, whether it be over in Indonesia, Japan, South America, China, Australia, rarely do we hear of injuries or damage when these earthquakes hit. We just had a large earthquake, and I'm going to say large. It's come in as a 4.8 magnitude earthquake. This happened at 5:47 p.m. Mountain Time here in the Salt Lake City area. This hit over in Yamada, Japan. This hit in the Pacific Ocean, approximately 160 miles east of Yamada, Japan. It came in as a moderate 4.8, but it may have even been larger. We have watched earthquakes all day today that have hit, and they've been upgraded. Yes, there have been some smaller earthquakes that were downgraded, but we've had a lot of earthquakes that have been upgraded as well. This earthquake in Japan could be upgraded, but it hit offshore. Again, the waters of the Pacific Ocean probably dampened the effects of the seismic energy before it hit land. Okay, let's go back up here. I just want to tell you about that because it just hit. Let's go back up here to Unalaska. Unalaska Island in Alaska. This is over in the southwestern tip of the Alaska Peninsula. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake. Again, this was approximately 35 to 40 miles northeast of Unalaska Island, Alaska. Okay, even though it was a 4.8 shaker, it was far enough off in the ocean to probably have had no effect on the inhabitants of that island. And yes, there are people that live there. Further east, a 4.5 magnitude shaker hit late last night near False Pass, Alaska. Okay, False Pass is about the middle. Actually, it's probably 2/3 of the way west of Anchorage. But it was a moderate 4.5 magnitude earthquake. Again, 25 kilometers or about 15 miles east of False Pass. Yes, this hit land, but it was a moderate quake. There's probably very little damage, if any, at False Pass. Now, one of the earthquakes that quite a few of you have told me about today, excuse me, I just had to have this. By the way, folks, this is lemon and honey. Hot lemon and honey water. Like I said, folks, this 3.1 magnitude earthquake that everybody's been telling me about hit up here near Mount Redoubt volcano, 40 kilometers, approximately 21 miles west southwest of Mount Redoubt. Now, while this was near Mount Redoubt, it wasn't on the mountain itself. It was on the western, southwestern flank, extended out from the volcano. Now, somebody made mention that we might be looking for bigger earthquakes there. You're absolutely right. We are. I mentioned to someone earlier that Mount Redoubt's had 4.5 magnitude earthquakes there in the past few months. I fully expect to see another 4.5 there. Why? Because we have all of this energy that has been coming up from the Aleutian Island chain. And there's still a lot of energy that's centered here in Alaska that has not made its way south, east and south, down the edge of the craton, the Cascadia subduction zone, this huge long earthquake fault, here. It has not made its way down the west coast of North America. I'm still looking to see at least a 5 to a 6.0 magnitude earthquake here in Alaska. Probably around Anchorage. However, we've had 6.3 magnitude earthquakes up here in Kobuk, Alaska. Also, in the recent past, we've had a 7.0 hit Anchorage. I fully expect another to hit, and a hit near Anchorage. Okay? So let's keep our eye on the ball. Don't take your eyes off the ball. Because when you do, it's when you will wish that you'd kept your eye on the ball and knew when something was going to hit. When we see multiple earthquakes like we see here in the Aleutian Islands, we know for a fact that this seismic energy is traveling across and through the plates, especially on fault lines. And that's exactly what these earthquakes are doing. We see it down here in the Western Pacific. We saw it today, a 5.3, a large 5.3. Hit down here 5 kilometers, which is only 2.5 miles northeast of Culajan, Philippines. Philippines. Let me show you. Okay, this is Mindanao, Philippines here. This is one of the island chains, small island chain of that constitute the Philippines. This whole area here is the Philippines. Okay, that's where this earthquake hit. We still don't have any confirmation of any damage. Now, this earthquake hit in the middle of the night. They are getting light there now. And if there's any damage, we should soon be hearing about it. But as of late, nobody's been talking about any damage of anywhere in the world when we've had large earthquakes. Most of the time we hear about it in the Philippines. I don't know why. Maybe the Philippine people want us to know about it so that they can get help. And yes, we have been helping the Philippine people because they have been devastated by earthquakes, large, very destructive earthquakes over here in Mindanao, Philippines, Davao City. 6.3, 6.5, 6.7, 7.1 magnitude earthquakes down here in Mindanao Island, Philippines. Davao City right here. Hundreds of people were killed. Thousands of people injured. Buildings, schools, homes wrecked, destroyed. Children not being able to go to school because their school buildings were destroyed. But in other places in the world, we don't hear about any damages. We know darn well that these large earthquakes cause damage, injury, and a lot of times cause death. Let's keep our eye on the ball. Let's help each other. Let's help each other plot and forecast these earthquakes so we know what's going on. So we know what's going on. Okay? See where this earthquake hit? Just barely out to sea. Just barely. 2.5 miles northeast of Calayan, Philippines. Okay? Let's watch and see what we hear about. Over here in the northern Philippines, 89 kilometers south-southwest of Saldong, Philippines. Okay? This hit off the coast over in the ocean. And another 4.7 as well. Okay? So they've had two fours, mid-range to upper fours, 4.9 and 4.7. This 4.9 probably caused extensive damage. We'll see. It was out in the ocean. Maybe it just was out there. It was 2 miles from shore, or this one was 89 kilometers. 89 kilometers. I doubt it caused anything. This other one was 86 kilometers offshore. I doubt anybody even felt it. There's a possibility. Let's go offshore in the northern Mariana Islands. A 4.7 moderate earthquake at upper 4 hit 187 kilometers. This one is approximately 100 miles northwest of Farallon de Pajaros, northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. territory. A U.S. territory. Okay, so that has hit. This one we just said, 4.8 near Yamada, Japan, just hit. We've talked about these earthquakes up here in Alaska. This one northern earthquake up here, northern Alaska. Guess where that is, folks? Katavik, Alaska. A 2.9, 3.0 magnitude earthquake, small in nature, 71 kilometers southwest of Katavik, Alaska. We have not had an earthquake in Katavik, Alaska, or anywhere above the Arctic Circle here. I'm showing you with my cursor where the Arctic Circle is. We haven't had an earthquake here above the Arctic Circle in about 30 days. We had one here, 71 kilometers, approximately 35, 40 miles, probably 42 miles southwest of Katavik. Katavik is right about here, where you see my arrow. So we're going to watch this and see how many more. Because usually one earthquake up here near Katavik breeds a bunch. So let's keep an eye on Katavik, Alaska. Right before we had those devastating earthquakes over around Queen Charlotte's Island and over in Ridgecrest, California. We've had a 5.0 here in Katavik, Alaska. Let's keep an eye on. Let's keep an eye on. Okay. One other earthquake that USGS has told us about is in Calama, Chile. A 4.6 moderate quake hit 154 kilometers, about 80 miles northeast of Calama, Chile. Okay. Again, this is a mid-range 4, probably very little damage here in the northern parts of Chile. Okay. Before we get to the western United States, and we'll be going back and forth between the US GS map and the EMSC map because we have a lot of earthquakes in the United States and we want to talk about it. Okay. Before we go there, I want to show you this. Over in and around Puerto Rico. I wanted to show you this. First off, I know this is a little out there. Here is an earthquake that just recently hit just north of the Mona Passage. Okay, this down here to the right is Puerto Rico. Directly west of that is the Dominican Republic over here that we don't even have on the map right now. There it is right there, the Dominican Republic. This spit of ocean, this open ocean here is called the Mona Passage between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, the Mona Passage here. The earthquake that we have is north of the Mona Passage, a 3.6 small earthquake, relatively small, 77 kilometers or about 40 miles, 45 miles northwest of San Antonio, Puerto Rico. Now this is approximately the same area where a 6.3 magnitude earthquake occurred last August. Right at the same time, Hurricane Maria was hitting Puerto Rico. Okay, that's that same general area. So this may even be an aftershock from that earthquake end of last summer. Okay, let's go over here off the coast of southwestern Puerto Rico. Look at the earthquakes that continue to be hit down here. Now I mentioned in prior broadcasts, and I'll be talking about it some more. Excuse me a second. I'll be mentioning on and over again on this program and other programs because these earthquakes continue to hit. Every day we see more and more aftershocks of the 8.0 and 8.4 magnitude earthquakes that we got within days of each other. Okay. Now, some of you will say, but Ron, didn't the agencies only report a 6.0 and a 6.4? You're absolutely right, they did. Terry Rempel and I studied it immediately after those large earthquakes hit. And they were much larger. They were much larger than what we were being told. They were 8.0, and the one that hit on the Friday just a few days later, one hit 8.0 on a Tuesday, and the other one hit on a Friday morning. Very much larger earthquakes than we've normally had. And when those hit, after those hit, we triangulated where the seismic energy came from. Can you say HAARP? HAARP? One facility over in Russia, one facility over in Norway, and one facility over in the far northwest end of Australia. That's where this energy came from. Both or all three of those facilities. Man made earthquakes. Okay? Now, while I have been mocked by some experts and other people have mocked me and said, oh, but Ron, you're wrong. No, these earthquakes were that large that there was a full rupture of the tectonic plate here, a full rupture of the tectonic plate. Usually, when we see 6.0s, it's never a full rupture. And the size and number of earthquakes decrease much more rapidly than what these have. We've seen threes and fours here. We saw threes here yesterday, and we've seen some fours as well in recent days. This one here that I clicked on was a 2.9 magnitude earthquake, 3 kilometers southeast of Guanica, Puerto Rico, just off the coast. Right next to it, a 3.1. A 3.1. Over here west of there, a 2.5. Over here west and north, a 2.9, 5 kilometers south-southwest of Guanica, Puerto Rico. North and east, we have a 2.6, 4 kilometers, about 2 miles southwest of Indios, Puerto Rico. Now, our friend Dominic from the Puerto Rican Police Agency, I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow morning. Dominic, I know you're listening. I will be calling you tomorrow morning. I hope you're in a place where we can talk, and if not, I'll call you back. I do want to get you on our show again. Dominic and I hit it off. He's a good man, and we're going to be bringing him back on the show to talk about this. And he has, I haven't seen the information that he was going to send me. He says he has information to say that these earthquakes have been caused by offshore drilling, oil and gas drilling. And so I'm anxious to see that information as well. But even offshore oil and gas drilling still doesn't compensate or come near all of these earthquakes that continue to hit. These earthquakes are aftershocks of those tremendous powerful forces that we have seen December 28th. Okay, that's Puerto Rico. You notice nothing here in Dominican Republic or Haiti today? And even the 7.7 magnitude earthquake we had over here between Cuba, right in here between Cuba and Jamaica. It hit. We've had a handful of earthquakes, but those have stopped. No one, not one agency is continuing to report on any earthquakes in this area. But yet it was an upper 7. An upper 7 hit along the Cayman Trench right here. That's what this fault line is, the Cayman Trench. So we're going to have to see what happens. We're going to have to see. All right. All right. All right. I'm keeping an eye on this earthquake in Japan. For a second, I thought we had another one, but we haven't. All right. am going to bring out my my phone app, and we'll look and see what earthquakes we have here. I know we've had a lot. I know for a fact we've had a lot. I want to thank Loretta for bringing us that music that we started off our program with today. She pointed it out to me, and I thought to myself, there's no way I cannot put that on tonight. And yes, YT may throw us a curveball and give us a strike, copyright strike. But that's our national anthem, and I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I'm just checking something real quick here. Okay, let's go over to my earthquake app and look at the map that the Europeans give us. Good. Okay, folks, I can only show you so many earthquakes at a time, but these are the earthquakes that have hit. I'm sorry, let me turn down the light. These are the earthquakes that have hit in the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Pacific Ring of Fire stretches way down here to the South Pacific and goes around both sides of the Pacific Ocean. The western side of the Pacific Ocean and around the eastern side of the Pacific Ocean, and continues up the northern part of South America, Central America, and up here into the United States. Up here into the United States. I'm sorry, there we are. Okay. Now, if you can see this map, it says we've had 100 earthquakes. 100 earthquakes over by California. Is that telling or what? It looks again like the map looked back in July. Back in July, before the major earthquakes hit over in Ridgecrest. With a very strong 6.3 earthquake that hit over up Queen Charlotte's Island in British Columbia. Yeah, that's how it looked. That's exactly how it looked. Let's see what happens now. Let's see what happens now. Okay. I just enlarged the map a little bit. The 100 went away, but we've got other swarms of earthquakes here as well. Other swarms here. Let's go up into the Pacific Northwest. Pacific Northwest. Eatonville, Washington. West about Rainier. Eatonville, Washington. We had a 1.46. Eatonville, Washington. Packwood, Washington. 17 miles northwest of Packwood, Washington. A minus 0.07. Darn it. I hate it when that does that. A minus 0.07 earthquake. And where is this earthquake? Can anybody see that white dot at the bottom of that red earthquake here, earthquake marker? I can tell you exactly where that is. I know exactly. You and I have been here before. We have two earthquakes there. Mount Rainier at the summit. These earthquakes were above sea level. That's why it said minus 0.07. Minus means above sea level. This earthquake, minus 0.07 at the summit of Mount Rainier. This other earthquake is 0.40 at the summit, Mount Rainier. You can see it. Mount Rainier got hit, folks. I'm going to enlarge it as much as I can so you can actually see the summit there. At the summit of Mount Rainier. Folks, those of you guys know who you are, that have sent me pictures of Mount Rainier. I know they were distant pictures. And that was over a month ago. I'd love to see how Mount Rainier is now. If we have any snow at the summit of Mount Rainier, because a lot of the snow has melted from the heat of the volcano. Yeah, folks, a lot of heat at Mount Rainier. Why? Because of magma inside the volcano. Magma inside the volcano is heating up the mountain. Now, my friends that live around there are telling me that Mount Rainier National Park is still closed to all visitors. Why? Because they're still dealing with lahars and large rocks and mud flow. Lahars? Yeah. The damage to the roads. That's what happens when we have a volcano that's ready to go. We have lahars going down the mountain. Now, the experts have said, oh, but that's not a lahar, it's just a slight avalanche. No, it's more than snow, guys. Sorry, it's not an avalanche. Oh, it's a rock fall, a landslide. No, guys. It doesn't fit that either. Sorry, you're wrong. A lahar. We have seen Mount Rainier steaming. In past weeks, we've showed you videos of Mount Rainier steaming, so we know darn well that there's magma beneath that summit that I just showed you. There's magma beneath the summit. It's recharging, folks. It's infilling. This past Thursday, we showed you seismograms, and we're going to show you more tomorrow, showing the infilling process of Mount Rainier. And those spikes, remember seeing those spikes I pointed them out to you? We have steaming going on, venting at that volcano. Magma beneath the surface, beneath the summit of the volcano. So Mount Rainier got hit again today. A 1.04 magnitude earthquake near Morton, Washington. Near Morton, Washington, 8 miles north of Morton, Washington. What do we have near Morton? Morton, Washington, folks. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. We have Mount McKinley, or not Mount McKinley, I'm sorry. Boy, that's a Freudian slip. We have Mount Rainier, and we have Morton, Washington, just southwest of Mount Rainier. Morton, Washington also got hit. It says 8 miles north of Morton, Washington. We have a 1.04 there. Okay. South of there, a 0.40. Cougar, Washington. Cougar, Washington. 19 miles northeast of Amboy, Washington. What do we have there? This is over on the southern flank of Mount St. Helens. The southern flank of Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens has been steaming too. We'll show you more seismograms tomorrow. Interesting, huh? And yet, the U.S. agency won't tell us about it, like it didn't happen. Findlay, Washington, eastern Washington, folks, southeast Washington. Findlay, Washington, a 1.07 magnitude earthquake, eastern Washington. Fascinating. Fascinating. Now, I'm headed here to show you what happened off the coast of Northern California today. 2.66 magnitude earthquake, a minor earthquake, 19 miles northwest of Bayview, California. Right between the shoreline and the Cascadia subduction zone. This is the Cascadia subduction zone, the earthquake fault. 2.66 off the coast of Bayview, California. Let's go over here to the Gorda Escarpment. We have another earthquake. My, oh my, another earthquake off the coast of Petrolia, California. 4 miles west-southwest of Petrolia. This is a 2.09 magnitude earthquake on the Gorda Escarpment right offshore. Go figure, a 2.09 earthquake right offshore of Petrolia, California on the Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment here is this fracture zone that goes west to east off the northern coast of California. Right here is the Mendocino Hills, and it goes right down to the Gorda Escarpment where you see this earthquake. Fascinating, huh? Yeah, really. Okay, northeastern California, Montgomery Creek, California, a 2.52. East of there, a 1.91, 4 miles southeast of MacArthur, California. A 1.91 there. That's Northern California, folks. Then if you see the 10 plus earthquakes here, that's the geysers, the man-made geothermal electrical power plant, where man has drilled into the depths of the Clear Lake volcano to harvest steam, to power turbines, to generate electricity for four entities that provide electrical power to residents in California. PG&E to be one of them. Okay? All right. We're not done yet. There's more. Cold Springs, California, over by the Nevada border, a 0.2. South of there, we've had Minden, Nevada, a 0.2. And what else do we have here? What else could we possibly have? Mammoth Mountain, California. Mammoth has had earthquakes today. A 1.06, a 1.13, and a zero point 0.9 at Mammoth. Gosh, I wish that would do that. There we go, zero point 0.9 at Mammoth. 3 earthquakes there at Mammoth Mountain today. Mammoth also is in Philly. Mammoth Mountain is a volcano, a ski slope. Mammoth Lakes is a town just east of the mountain, a resort town, providing housing and fun for a lot of tourists. Now, remember that movie with Brosnan? Yeah, remember that movie? Reminds you of Mammoth Mountain, huh? Yeah, it does. I think I'm going to watch that movie again tonight. Okay? Friday, they were talking about earthquakes out here north and east of Mammoth in what? Longs Valley Volcano Caldera. There was a gentleman on YouTube, Mr. Estep, who was showing hot spots right here. Longs Valley Volcano. Yeah, they were hot spots. They weren't fire, but there was hot spots. Why? Of course we know why. There's magma infill there as well. Longs Valley is a super volcano, just as big as Yellowstone, maybe bigger. Longs Valley is also a threat. Let's keep our eyes on the ball, folks. Keep our eyes on the ball. Now, I don't show any earthquakes at all. I show no earthquakes here in Yellowstone. That does not mean they did not happen. That just means the agencies are not reporting them. So let's continue down south and see what we see. Told you about Mammoth Mountain. Then we go to Big Pine, California, a 2.7 magnitude earthquake. Big Pine, California, near the border with Nevada. Big Pine, 2.71. Beatty, Nevada, out in the desert. Beatty, Nevada also has volcanism going on around Beatty. Beatty, California, or Beatty, Nevada, I'm sorry. 0.9 today. Pinoche, Nevada. West of St. George, Utah, Pinoche, Nevada. Had an earthquake today. 0.0, believe it or not. And they're still reporting it. Go figure. Go figure. Let's go back up to Northern California for a few minutes. Danville, California, a 2.23. South of the geysers. Okay. I probably ought to mention, for those of you that are new, these earthquakes at the geysers, they're small, they're minor earthquakes. But they still happen day after day after day because the seismic energy is hitting the drill points where they've drilled into the surface of the earth. They drilled into the surface of the earth. And the seismic energy hits those drill points. Yeah, seismic energy hits those drill points. And those drill points are man-made earthquake faults. That's why earthquakes are hitting the geysers. Okay, Danville, California, south of there, had the earthquake we talked about here, 2.23. Let's go further south over on the San Andreas Fault. Okay, San Juan Bautista, a 1.29, just north of Tres Peños. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we have. 1.29 San Juan Bautista and a 2.2 at San Juan Bautista. Two earthquakes right there, center stage on the San Andreas Fault. South of there, we have two more earthquakes. Do you want to know where those are? The Pinnacles, California, a 2.09 and a 1.78. The Pinnacles are also a vulcanized area, in a volcano area on the San Andreas Fault. But what we can't see just by, because there's these red dots on the map, there's also oil and gas drilling going on there. Let me see if I can zero in closer to some of the, well, on this particular map, it'll only zoom in so far, but here is one such oil and gas facility. Okay, about a mile from where this earthquake struck, near the Pinnacles. Okay, I wish the map would zero in closer. Okay, let me point it out. The earthquake hit here. The oil and gas drilling facility was right here. Okay, right there. Now, let me look here. I think we see something else here. I thought I saw something else anyway. Maybe I was wrong. Yeah, that was something else. I thought I saw some tanks here too. Some oil and gas storage tanks. All right. Let's go over to this other one at the Pinnacles, 1.78, and see what we can see here. Or is it just volcanism? Or is it just volcanism? Just a second, folks. In this case, this might just be, I don't see any oil and gas facilities right here near this earthquake. But it appears that this is some kind of industry. Look where the earthquake is, and look at the different buildings right next to the earthquake. It doesn't appear to be an oil and gas facility. Okay, but it's there. It's there. All right. So we went on our voyage of discovery, and this time we didn't see any oil and gas facility except with that first earthquake at the Pinnacles that we showed you. Guess what? We found it. just south. See the shadow of the jack and pump? Bingo. This is maybe 4 or 5 miles. Let me show you where that is. There's an earthquake, and there's the jack and pump right there. Maybe just a handful of miles away from that earthquake. So yeah, it may be because of volcanism, but there's oil and gas pumping going on as well. We found it. We found it. Fascinating. I was just zooming out when I found that. Fascinating. All right. We went on our voyage of discovery at the Pinnacles, and we found 2 oil and gas pumping operations with 2 separate earthquakes right near those pumping ops. Fabulous. Fabulous. Let's go south some more. San Ardo, California. San Ardo, a 1.05 magnitude earthquake. South of there on where? It's called the San Andreas Fault, but it happens to be the earthquake capital of California, 0.67 at Parkfield. 0.67 at Parkfield, California. Earthquake capital of California. Go figure. Go figure. Now, we were at Mammoth Lakes earlier. Big Pine, California, 0.271 earthquake. Let's go down here to the Mojave Desert. Swarmage, Mojave Desert, Cozo Junction, 1.79, 1.61, 1.13, Cozo Junction, earthquake country. More swarmage. Little Lake, California, 2, 4, 6 earthquakes. Little Lake, California. Further south, Searles Valley. Swarmage, folks. Ridgecrest, 0.94. 0.94. 1.31. 1.1 or 1.15. 1.17. 2.09. Just east of Ridgecrest. Here's the other 1.13 just south of Ridgecrest. Okay, we continue south and east. Searles Valley, 2.61, 1.4, 1.49, 0.93. Swarmage, folks, the Mojave Desert is hopping today. Yes, they're minor earthquakes. They're minor earthquakes. But what happened before last July? We had swarming there. Inokern, California, a 0.82. This is north of the Garlock Fault. 0.82 north of the Garlock Fault. I'm sorry. The Garlock Fault, folks. Folks, right here. Up and down there. Going from northeast to southwest. Pointing towards where? Just north of Los Angeles. Just north of Los Angeles. Let's go down towards LA. Burbank, California, a 1.19 today. Burbank, California. Villa Park, 1.80. Corona, California, 0.94. Corona, California, 0.94 right there. Okay. Well, let's see. Yucaipa 0.99, Beaumont 0.84. Yucaipa, Yucaipa's here, Beaumont's here. Okay, let's still open this up. Temecula, California, just north of the San Diego County line. Temecula, California got hit, a 1.1 magnitude earthquake. Now, a lot of years ago, back in the 80s, probably 85, there was acreage for sale in Temecula. Folks, do you want to know what they were selling it for? $30 an acre. Back then, I was just a poor cop, making $13.30 an hour as a cop in San Diego. Did not work for the city, I worked for the feds, but $13.30 an hour. I couldn't afford $30 an acre. I should have bought it. I should have figured out a way to make $30 to put a payment on property in Temecula. Because Temecula now, you can't get in any property for less than about $40,000 to $100,000 in Temecula. Temecula, California had an earthquake today. Okay, let's go east of there. The Anza Gap, folks. Large swarmage going here in the Anza Gap, just north of San Diego County line. Temecula is Riverside County. Riverside County, Anza Gap. A lot of swarmage going on. Aguanga, California, 0.24. North San Diego County, right near the border. Riverside and San Diego. Let's pop down to Lake Henshaw, California, just east of Escondido. My old fishing spot, folks. Lake Henshaw got hit again, 0.78, a minor earthquake. A minor earthquake. The next earthquake, and we haven't seen but one other earthquake registered here in this part of San Diego County, but one earthquake one other time. This earthquake is in Rancho Santa Fe, California, 3 miles northeast of Rancho Santa Fe, 0.56 magnitude earthquake. Folks, Rancho Santa Fe is like La Jolla, but it's not right next to the ocean like La Jolla is. It's a gate-guarded, expensive community. Movie stars live there. Rancho Santa Fe, California. They got hit today. It's 0.56, but they got hit today. All right. Borrego Springs, northeast San Diego, California, 0.96. Borrego Springs, at the top of the Chocolate Mountains, 0.96. Over here in Julian, California, before we cross over east of the Chocolate Mountains, let's talk about Julian, California, the apple capital of San Diego. 1.08 earthquake, Julian, California, apple capital of San Diego. Okay, let's cross over to the east side of the Chocolate Mountains to a place called Oasis, California, 1.18. 1.18 in Oasis. This is the Salton Sea, the Salton Butte volcano, right there. Salton Butte volcano. Okay. Ocotillo Wells, also on the east side of the Chocolate Mountains, a 1.36 earthquake. A 1.36 in Ocotillo Wells. Okay. Now there are no earthquakes south of the Salton Sea. Nothing in Calipatria. Nothing in Brawley or El Centro or anything there. Calipatria is right here, where we have another geothermal power plant built by man, drilled into the surface. drilled into the surface to provide electricity for the residents of Imperial County. But there's no earthquakes there today. None. Okay? Let's go east, folks. Let's go east. One lone earthquake being reported in Oklahoma, near Medford, Oklahoma, a 1.98 magnitude earthquake. Medford, Oklahoma. Let's zero in and see what we can see at Medford, Oklahoma. We already know there's oil and gas drilling going on. This earthquake is 1 mile north of Medford. Okay, let's go see what we can see. Oil and gas. Oil and gas. Medford, Oklahoma. Medford, Oklahoma. Let's see if we can find another one. Oil and gas. Oil and gas. Let's see if we can find another one. Where there's one, there's a bunch. Let's see, where are we here? Doggone, sometimes it won't let us zoom into these other pads. It won't get in there to show us the jack and the pump. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. Interesting how that happens. Let's see if we can find another one around here. I know we will. I do it all the time. Bingo. Got another one. Oil and gas. Fascinating how that happens, isn't it, folks? Oil and gas all over. Bingo, there's another one. Oil and gas pumping operations. Fascinating, huh? One earthquake reported near Medford, Oklahoma, and we come up with oil and gas pumping operations all over. There's another one. Oil and gas. There's another one. Oil and gas. Fascinating, huh? Fracking. Fracking operations. And yet we only have one earthquake in Oklahoma today. That's highly unusual. Usually we have 5 to 10 of them, sometimes more. Sometimes more. Oh, guess what? An earthquake was just reported in West Yellowstone. A 0.86 magnitude earthquake in West Yellowstone. Go figure. I wonder how many earthquakes are unreported. Fabulous, huh? Folks, let me show you this. Halifax, Halifax, a 2.6 magnitude earthquake in the northern part of Quebec. Halifax, Canada. Actually, Halifax is Newfoundland, I believe. A 2.6 magnitude earthquake up there. Okay. Okay. There is North America, United States, East Coast of the United States. Halifax is way up there up north. Go figure. Halifax got hit. Now, there's one earthquake I just want to tell you about because I just saw it. We already know that Mexico is swarming, or it's always swarming down in southern Mexico. But I want to show you these. This is over on the Mexican side of the San Andreas Fault in the Gulf of California. We had 3 earthquakes, 2 threes, a 3.2, a 3.2, a 3.3, and the other one is a 4. A 4.1, 2 3.2s and a 4.1, right in the middle of the Gulf of California on the Mexican side of the San Andreas Fault. And you notice where these 3 earthquakes are? Right on top of the fault, literally. You can see the fault quite clearly there. And there's a cone, another cone right there. I wonder how many other cones we can see there. Going north, I see another cone there. There's a cone, some other cones here, a big cone right there. Volcanoes, folks, volcanoes. Then I zeroed or pulled it out a little bit. You can see the earthquake fault, okay? How it comes out of California, right down into the Gulf of California. Yep. How about them apples? How about them apples? And like I said, 50 plus earthquakes in southern Mexico and Central America, 50 earthquakes, 50 plus earthquakes down there. Okay. And yet USGS has only 42, 44 earthquakes listed. I think it was 45. Had 45 earthquakes listed. Fascinating, huh? Yet I know darn well that there's a lot more earthquakes than that. I know darn well. 238 earthquakes today, according to Earthquake Tracker. 238 earthquakes around the world, and yet USGS reports 45. Fascinating. Fascinating. And volcano discovery. Volcano discovery, folks. We have a lot more earthquakes than that. We got 13,971 earthquakes so far since the turn of the year. Almost 14,000 earthquakes. 13,975 earthquakes since the first of the year. That's huge. That's huge. And by the way, there's a lot of volcanoes going on. I got notified today that there was a new earthquake, or excuse me, a new volcano that hasn't erupted since last year down in Papua New Guinea. Right now, Volcano Discovery has listed Sabancay in Peru, intermittent emissions, Abaco volcano, Ebico volcano in the Kuril Islands, a 6,000-foot blast from Ebico. Yasser volcano over in Vanuatu, a 5,000-foot blast. Yasser volcano, Vanuatu, 5,000-foot blast. Reventador in Ecuador, a 14,000-foot blast from Mount Reventador in Ecuador. Bagana volcano in Papua New Guinea, a 7,000-foot blast from Bagana volcano, Papua New Guinea. That's a lot. Sangay volcano also over in Ecuador, a 5,800-meter blast, 19,000-foot blast from Sangay volcano in Ecuador. Aso volcano over in Japan, Kyushu, Japan area. Aso volcano had a 5,000-foot blast. Fuego in Guatemala, sporadic volcanic emissions here. Popocatépetl in Mexico, 19,000-foot blast. And that's just some of the volcanoes that we have active. But I want to tell you about that one in Papua New Guinea. That's new to the hit list since last year, Bagana volcano. A large blast, volcanic blast from that earthquake. Okay, I promised you some emergency preparedness information. I'm going to deliver now. I'm going to deliver now. Let me go over to my information here. Okay. All right. As I started this broadcast today, and in the past few days, was not on the air last night. I haven't felt good. I'm still trying to recover from a cold. But thanks to a lot of you, I'm drinking lemon and honey, and it actually needs to be warmed up. But I'm drinking lemon and honey. But I want to talk to you about surviving the initial aftermath of a disaster or an emergency is only half the problem. Surviving is only half. The other half is surviving in the long, hard months and even years to come after the emergency. Once you survive the aftermath, you're going to have to hunker down on your own. Your homestead, your home, or you may have to have a bug out location. And we've talked about that. Waiting for the dust to settle as people become more and more desperate. They will do anything for food, water, and medications and other necessities. Now, I will be talking about in a few minutes about the things that you're going to need to worry about for long-term survival. But the main point is you're going to need something like a homestead or a retreat that you can go to survive what is going on. It's going to be the only way to stay safe for the long term and to have a renewal food and water supply. Okay, and I'm talking about planting gardens. Whether you're bugging in, or excuse me, you're hunkering down. It's not called bugging in, but you're hunkering down at your own home or homestead. And yes, whether you have just a home and not much land, or you have a condominium or an apartment, you can still grow vegetables inside your home in pots, large and small. If you have land, you can also add fruit trees, chickens and cows, and goats to provide milk products and meat. Not to forget rabbits. Rabbits are a great source of meat, and they don't take a lot of care. For a few dollars and a lot of grass, if you have that, you can make a rabbit tractor, meaning a rabbit hutch that you move along grass. Let the rabbits be in their hutch, and you move. You call their hutch a movable hutch, a tractor, where you can move it around various parts of your yard, where your rabbits will eat the grass, and they'll be safe from predators and such. Because if you do it right, you can have a movable lid on top of the rabbit hutch, a metal sheet metal hutch roof that you can lock down so predators don't get inside, and then you can protect your rabbits that way. Your rabbits can hunker down there, and you'll have food. You can raise rabbits. I did that when I was a kid. We had rabbits. Water sources. Okay, water sources, wells, rivers, rainwater, lakes. Make sure you have a water purifying system, a life straw, because water is going to be polluted almost without question. Without question, you need to have water to survive. You also need to consider accommodating extra family members and friends who you're close to, who you can't say no to them, right? Or maybe you can. Maybe you have warned them about the upcoming emergencies, and they said, "Oh, we don't have to worry about that. You're full of baloney. You don't know what you're talking about." Yes, folks, I do know what I'm talking about. And yes, I have even those kind of family members too. And to them, depending on my relationship with them, I'll compare them to the virgins who came to the wedding in the Bible, the virgins who came to the wedding and did not have adequate oil in their lamps. And when the Savior opened the door, he told them, "Where's your oil? You didn't do what I told you to do." And he sent them on their way. Okay? Now that I liken that unto my own life, people that did not prepare, did not do what I asked them or told them that they could do to save their own lives. And then they come to me when an emergency happens, expecting me to forget my family and give them goods and services that my family and I have labored to save. Sorry, just as the Savior said, I don't know you. Where were you when I spoke at the emergency preparedness fair? Where were you when we had an emergency uh, preparedness soup night where we talked about emergency preparedness? Why didn't you do what we told you to do? Where were you when other people needed help? You were too busy. You were too busy for other people that wanted you to help, and you turned them away. And I'm going to do the same. Just as a Savior, I'm going to close the door. Sorry, I don't know you. Okay? Who can say no to them? If I have to, I will. So long as they are honest and hardworking people, there should be room for them under our roofs. I have no problem with that. But they have to be honest and hardworking, and have at least shown me that they're worth trying to save. And I'm sorry I feel that way, but I'm going to protect what I have labored long and hard to save, to help my family with. Next, you have to assume you're going to need to acquire supplies with money, maybe even via bartering. Bartering. You have this, and someone else has something that you may need. You barter for those products, those things that they have that you need. You need to ponder on what some of those things you can do to help others are. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. But cigarettes and even whiskey can be worth money, a lot of money when somebody needs it, when they have to get their fix. And you might have to think about putting those in your emergency supply kit, bartering for things that they need. If we ever go back to the Middle Ages, can you say EMP? An EMP would knock us into the 1800s with no electricity. Just like Gilligan's Island, no boat, no harbor, not a single luxury, like Robinson and Crusoe. It's as primitive as can be. And no, we're not going to be joining them next week, or the week after, or months after. But we'll be knocked out into the Middle Ages for a long time. Okay? The skills that we have, the education that we have, will be in high demand. But the catch is this: you need to learn those skills today if you truly want to be good at them, to save yourself and your family. Speaking of which, you also need to think about your safety, the safety and protection of you and your family. In a lawless or semi lawless society, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It'll be much easier. Thieves and thugs are going to know what they want to get from you, what they want to steal from you, and how they're going to take it from you. Thinking they can beat the crap out of you or they can shoot you. What are you going to do to protect yourself? Think about it for a minute. Those thieves and muggers and thugs, they might want what's in your garden, what you have in your house. They might want your kids and try to steal your kids. This is why it's important to have means to defend yourself, meaning firearms and or backup alternative weapons. Knives, slingshots, for example. How about a great big huge wooden stick? I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt, if I'm not saying, if I'm uh, not wrong, says walk quietly and carry a big stick. In my case, I still have a police baton and I intend on using it. I was a weapons instructor as a police officer. I still know how to use that baton. And yes, occasionally I practice with it, and I'm very good. I practice with my firearms. I practice with my firearms. Right here, folks. Right here. I've got a firearm. You should also consider things like homeschooling your children. How are they going to continue to learn? The regular schools are going to be destroyed, or the teachers aren't going to be able to teach in a building because it's been destroyed. And whether or not you're going to help others in need, and to what extent. I truly hope you're going to be able to rethink your survival plans, your emergency plans that we continue to talk to you about. Emergency kits and emergency plans. Okay? I hope when we talk to you that you're going to realize it's not just about bug out bags, survival kits, and bugging out. Yes, they're going to be very important, but you have to think long term. You're going to have to think long term. Okay, let's start off with the little things. Okay, a lot has been written about what to do when the brown stuff hits the fan, and you know what I'm talking about. Knowing what to do during these first few critical minutes, whether to shelter in place, or some people say bug in, I call it shelter in place, because that's exactly what you have to do. Shelter, not bug in, shelter in place, or bugging out. Having a family plan in advance is very critical. These are all important. It's also been said 3 weeks after the initial catastrophe, most people will either be dead due to lack of food, water, and medicine. The rest, excuse me, I'm going to have some water here. Anybody else alive is still going to be trying to find where they're going to eat the next day, the next meal. You're going to have to protect yourself. The ones that can forever change how our society functions and throw us into darkness, or even as far back as the Middle Ages. An EMP could do that. A bomb could do that. An EMP bomb, a solar flare, a CME, war, pandemics, as we're seeing happen now, and an economic collapse. Do you think I'm kidding? The Dow, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost over 3,000 points just this week on threat of a pandemic, concerned about the coronavirus. Think about it, folks. An economic collapse, a famine, a mega drought. We've had droughts, and then all of a sudden last year we had 9 states here in the United States get flooded out. And the Mississippi River, even as late as last week, was flooding, folks. What are you going to do? A food crisis. We already are seeing store shelves being stripped bare. Yes, Walmart, where we shop a lot, had bare shelves this week. If such a large scale disaster were to affect America or even the entire world, it's safe to assume things will not get back to normal anytime soon. You need a long term survival plan. We've been talking and talking and talking about it. A long term survival plan for you and your family that will keep you safe and well fed for years to come. Keeping in mind that I'm not talking about what to do when the actual disaster hits. We've covered that in depth in previous videos that we've had here. Okay? What I'm talking about. Make sure you have a survival plan that will keep you safe and well fed for years to come. Keeping in mind that I'm not talking about what to do when the exact actual disaster strikes. Okay, pen and paper. I'm not asking you to stockpile pens and papers, although that might not be such a bad idea, so you can continue to jot things down. Before you do anything, You need to figure out your own unique situation and a plan, and to plan accordingly. Some of the things that you may want to jot down. How about the number of people to include in your plan? Your immediate family, or those people that might just happen to drop by and expect you to take care of them. Are you going to do it, or are you going to shut the door and say, sorry, I don't know you? How about the sex, age, and medical conditions of each member of your family? Pets and farmyard animals, your location and climate, your bug out location. You're going to have, if you don't plan on sheltering in, you're going to have a bug out location. You're going to have to split your stockpile between your home and your secondary bug out location. Your bug out vehicle. Your bug out vehicle. What are you going to have as a bug out vehicle? Does your vehicle have emergency supplies in it in case you get stranded? I think that might be a good idea. Emergency food and emergency supplies in your vehicle. We're still in the process right now of having cold weather. We had 3 inches of snow overnight last night, and it's continuing to snow now as we speak here in Salt Lake City. What are you going to do when it's cold outside and we have an EMP? Or your electricity goes off and it doesn't come back. What are you going to do? What is your plan? You have a propane stove outside. Your barbecue. Can you use your barbecue to heat up and cook your food? That's one idea. Okay? Your bug out vehicle or sheltering in. The type of a disaster you're preparing for. If you're either on the east or west side of Yellowstone, what are you going to do? If you're worried about Yellowstone erupting, what are you going to do? When it does, you might have to spend months on end inside your home. So make sure you stock up on plenty of respirators. Now we have a pandemic literally on our doorstep. Literally on our doorstep. At the minimum, do you have a mask? Even a surgical mask may be helpful. We've talked about N95 and N100 masks. Do you have those? I wore this morning at church. Number one, I've got a cold. I don't want to give it to anybody else. But there were other people that were sneezing or coughing at church. I was not near any one of them and wouldn't. I was on my own side of the chapel. But you have to protect yourself. Yes, right now I've got a weakened immune system because I'm sick. What are you planning to do? Next, it's time to do the math. Let's start with water. 1 gallon per day per person is the minimum that you should have. So let's say 1.5 just to be safe. For 1 year's supply for you, your spouse, and and one child, you would need 4.5 times 365 days. That's almost 1,650 gallons of water. 1,650 gallons of water. If you can't afford to store that much water, you should either consider moving to a rural area or to have an alternate way of finding, filtering, and purifying water, and ways of finding food. For food, let's start from about 2,000 calories per day. Okay. Now I have these tables right in front of me. I am an emergency preparedness specialist. That's what I've done for how many years now? They've asked me to do it from my neighborhood and church, and that's exactly what I do. And I talked to them about it too today. But let's start with food, 2,000 calories per person per day. Since life post collapse is going to be hard, if not even, and I hate even to say this, murder to be able to get through it, harder than any of us will have imagined, I would say we would need at least 2,500 calories a day. For a family that's three, that's 7,500 times 365 days, almost 2.8 million calories for a 1 year stockpile of food. For 1 year stockpile of food, 2.8 million calories. Now you can either start from there and count the calories so you always know how much food will last you, or you can just blindly stockpile food and don't worry about the math. That is entirely up to you. Now, between Scarlet and myself, we've talked about your emergency food supplies. This happens to be a 36-hour kit worth of food, and it will probably last us for 72 or longer. Most of these meals make a lot more than we can consume even on one during one meal. And if you purposely ration it, you can make it last a lot longer than that. Four Patriots food. Four Patriots. Okay? Patriot Supply also does it. Patriot Supply. They're a sponsor of this program. So get your food supply now. It's almost too late. In some cases, depending on where you live, you might not get your food supply now for up to 2 weeks because of everybody needing the same thing at the same time. You need to plan, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. Okay? Plan and start a 1 year plus food and water supply for your home, for your family. I just don't have a wife and child. I've got four other adults besides my wife and I. And those are adults. I've also got a grandchild that's here. So we have six adults and a grandchild. What are we going to do? I know what we're going to do because we've been planning and we've been doing it. But you need to plan and start immediately a 1 year food water supply. How much food do you need for long term survival? The minimum is 1 year. FEMA used to say a 36 hours or 3 day supply. A 3 day supply, it's going to be a lot longer than that, folks. A lot longer. The minimum is 1 year. In all reality, you need to think about more than that and think of more things than what you might have or what you might be planning for. You need to think about it and get moving, and time to move is now. We don't have time to think about it. If you're not careful, some of your food is going to spoil. And it might spoil whether you want it to or not, whether you plan for that or not. Some of your food supply is going to spoil. Some of it you might want to barter with, but be careful bartering. Make sure you get what you need in a barter. Don't just give somebody the food because they're desperate. Get what you need as well. Let's not forget that life post collapse is going to be tough. and you're going to you're going to consume way more than that much touted 2,000 calories a day. In the remaining moments of this program, a few essential tips for long-term food storage. 1. Rotate your stockpile twice a year to get used and make sure it doesn't spoil, and you rotate your stockpile. Rotate it to keep your supply of food fresh. 2. Know who you're stockpiling for your household members, your pets, and your farm animals. Don't forget your pets. Don't leave them behind. You definitely don't want to stock up for non-preppers. People that don't care, people that told you to go to heck because they don't believe anything's going to happen. Sorry, I don't know you. And close the door. Those people need to build their own supplies. Don't let them steal yours. Label your containers with the expiration date on the outside of the containers. Flour, sugar, oats, salt. Label what's in the containers and when it's going to expire. Label them so you're always going to consume the oldest food first, the oldest supplies first, and your new supplies will be in the back. Don't forget to store utensils, cooking utensils, eating utensils, can openers, wheat grinders, and anything else that you may need to cook and consume your food. Okay. We've talked about food storage before, things that you need to have. Wheat, berries, spam, pink salmon are just a few of the foods that will last decades if you properly store the food in a cool, dry place. Okay, folks, we're getting close here. We're getting close. I want to tell you how much I care for you. This is not over. This is far from being over. What I need to do now is to make sure that we understand each other. I'm not going to mince words. You don't have time to sit around and do nothing about your emergency plans and your emergency supplies. We're in the midst of a pandemic that's coming that's going to be worse than anything we've seen in most of our lives. I'm not going to mince words. This is the truth. I want you to be ready. More than anything, I want you to be ready. Why? Because it's necessary if you're going to survive. And I want you to survive. I want you to survive. I want you to be here when it's all said and done. More than anything, I want you to be ready and with us. I want you to be ready and with us. Please, please, Know that I care about you. Know how much I love you. I ask God to bless you and protect you. As Walter Cronkite has said, and that's the way it is. Sunday, March 1st, 2020. For Emergency Management Associates, this is Ron Tyler. Have a good evening, folks. God bless you. Happy Sabbath. God bless you, folks. Thank you so much. If anything else happens, we will be back here to report it as soon as the information comes to us. Have a good night.